Okay, so we read it, we did some research, we took a study break. So apparently McCain, and you're saying some Democrats in the Senate, approached the IRS in 2013 about, they were distressed about Citizens United, which, among other things, ruled that corporations are people in terms of political contributions. And anyway, you go ahead.
Well, according to Judicial Watch, papers released by the Freedom of Information Act revealed that congressional Senate staffers, mostly from the Democrats but helped by McCain as usual, had actually requested that Tea Party organizations be harassed to the point of bankruptcy by the IRS. This meeting was was attended by Lois Lerner, Obama's head of the IRS, and what it turned out was that Lois Lerner had already begun the process before the meeting had taken place.
Well, let me ask you this.
She'd already started it in 2010, before, not 2010, but before the 2012 election.
Let me ask you this. What was bothering McCain and his cohorts about these organizations?
Well, in my opinion, what was bothering him, we'll never know, because you can't read his mind. But
isn't it that the tax-exempt status wasn't intended for political organizations?
Well, then it should have, but that's not what McCain's staffer wanted. He wanted the ultra-conservative Tea Party organizations to be targeted. And I've always thought that McCain was a traitor to the Republican Party, that he was basically a liberal, at least he is on immigration. But the point is that it turned out that Lois Lerner had they'd already used the, I think the Justice, I would have to look this up again, but they'd already, the FBI, the Justice Department, the IRS had all been implicated in an attempt to drive the Tea Parties into bankruptcy.
And why should we care about this stuff that happened in 2012 more than we care about what's happening 6 years later right now?
Well, because the people that did it were never punished. And if we allow the IRS under Obama and his appointed IRS deputies, Lois Lerner and their staff, to harass their political opponents at the behest of Democratic senators.
Like McCain.
No, but it was the majority were Democrat senators. The only reason that McCain's name was brought up is that people thought it was so strange that he was involved in it, because all the other people involved were Democrats. Every single Democrat, all the senators that wanted it, and all the government bureaucrats, and it was done at the behest of the Obama White House. So it was a Democrat plot to shut down their political opponents. And that's how he won the 2012 election, because these organizations were shut down in Florida and Ohio, which were the critical states that gave Obama the presidency. So it is to use the IRS, the FBI, the Justice Department to shut down the political opponents of your administration.
Really, how many of these Tea Party organizations were actually shut down?
We've gone over this before.
How many?
It might have been as many as 100.
Out of how many?
I don't know the numbers, Rick. It's not a math problem. Again,
mostly everything is a math problem.
It mostly is a situation where the Tea Party organizations in Florida and Ohio were shut down.
So there were no Tea Party organizations.
I don't know if there were
Ohio.
any, but the ones that were there were not able to campaign for Mitt Romney. And it's because of you Democrats. It's because the Democrats did something that has never been done before in the history of this country.
It sounds like whataboutism 6 years later.
Well, no, it's not whataboutism, Rick. It's that the most corrupt thing ever done was done by Obama. There's nothing to compare to it. There's nothing you can think of that any Republican has ever done.
There's no indication, there's no paper, there's no document, there's no witness testimony that says that Obama had anything to do with it.
Oh, actually, Rick, that's the whole problem, Rick. They lost in court.
Lois Lerner did.
Yeah.
But
the IRS lost in court.
But Obama, there's no indication that Obama had anything to do with this.
It was done. Okay, normally.
Did a judge say Obama did this?
Okay,
is there a legal document?
Normally, the head of the IRS doesn't go to the White House. Lois Lerner had a series of scores of meetings at the White House that we don't know
Scores? You're saying she had more than 40 meetings at the White House?
Yes. And we don't know.
There's some record of these?
Yes, there is. There's a record of every meeting at the White House. And we know that directly after those meetings, the campaign to shut down the Tea Parties took place. It didn't happen on its own. It was at the time and directly after. And that's when the Tea Parties were shut down. And now we have testimony that it was at the behest of Democrat senators. So the fact that I don't have a paper signed by Obama saying that he did it.
Why would McCain, a Republican?
Including McCain, yeah. Because I've always, we don't know why, but I think the reason is that McCain is basically was on the side of the Democrats. He didn't like pressure from the right.
Or he didn't like the way the political discourse was being shaped primarily by money.
No, actually, the Tea Party was a grassroots organization.
It started by Grover Norquist. Or actually, no, it was a guy on CNBC threw a tantrum where he called for a new Tea Party.
Yeah, it was a grassroots organization, Rick.
Financed by the Koch brothers.
No.
Yeah, come on, Google that shit.
Rick, the Tea Party was grassroots. It's as grassroots as anything is in the United States.
Yeah, financed by
are you saying grassroots.
Are you saying that zero liberal organizations were shut down?
We've gone over this before.
Yeah, we have.
It
zero?
What we found was that the number was something like 10 or 20 to 1. It was not reciprocal.
And how many liberal organizations were formed compared to how many Tea Party organizations? What were the relative percentages of these organizations that were what you're calling harassed? These were a new thing, and the IRS was trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, this is the argument you made a year ago.
And I wasn't
wrong
a year ago.
And since then, the IRS lost in court.
Okay, and so why are we fighting about this?
Wait. The IRS lost in court. It was found by a judge in Washington that the IRS had specifically targeted Tea Party conservative groups. That regardless,
are they the ones who sued?
Yes.
So the liberal organizations that got shut down didn't sue.
It was a finding of the court that the liberal organizations were not targeted unfairly in number. It was the Tea Parties that were targeted, and by grossly unfair numbers.
Well, who was suing? Just the conservatives?
Yeah, but the finding in the court was that it was the conservatives that were the ones that were being treated unfairly.
As opposed to the liberal ones who were also shut down.
There were some, but the numbers grossly favored the shutting down of conservative groups. And that was the finding of the court, Rick.
Oh, fine, I'll give you all this. Let's move on to the next thing.
No, that's why Lois Lerner was forced to resign.
Yeah, I'm aware of this. You've said this a bunch. So let's move on to the issues of the day instead of the issues of fucking 2012 and 2013.
Yeah, no, but the point is, Rick, none of these people were ever punished.
Well,
and you are trying to convince me that the Republicans are more corrupt. And I'm trying to tell you, Rick.
Well, don't
that-
let me tell you that.
No,
Let
no,
George will tell you that.
I don't care what George Will said. I am telling you that you can't come up with anything that the Republicans have done that is as corrupt as using the IRS to target their political opponents. You can't think of anything.
Wait and see. Let's see what.
No, wait a minute, Rick. I'm going to wait and see if you beat your wife. If you don't have anything as corrupt.
Mueller just added 4 more lawyers to his team, to experts on Russia.
I don't care. I don't care. You have to a minute ago, you were telling me that the Democrats were not as corrupt, that it was the Republicans that were corrupt. And I just proved to you
I just said
that
George,
by a legal judgment, that the Democrats had used the IRS 5 years ago to harass their political opponents. What have
Google
you
the
got?
history of the Tea Party in America.
That doesn't answer anything. That's the worst diversion you've done in a year.
Well, it's about
I
the Tea
have
Party.
proven right now that the Democrats are corrupt and that the Obama administration was therefore, by using the IRS, the most corrupt administration in the history of the U.S.
As opposed to the Trump administration, which
that has never used the IRS to harass their political opponents.
no, they just make coins to congratulate people on the good job they did during the hurricanes of 2017. The EPA, the one that Pruitt's trying to give a flat tire. I'm
All right,
here.
let's move on.
All right.
Now, as far as immigration goes, here are my numbers. There are 325,000 crimes per year, or criminals in the U.S. prison system. And according to...
And Coulter.
No, actually, she's quoting a report to congressional requesters. A recent report states
By?
that...
What's a congressional requester? And who came up with the report?
Okay, you would have to ask who writes the report to congressional requesters, number 7 and number 10. According to their figures, 23,000 murders in America are committed by Mexicans. It also says,
Mexicans, what, a year?
according to this report, it doesn't say by year.
Well,
Okay,
it can't be by year because
it says 1% of all criminal aliens have committed murder in the U.S.
1% of criminal aliens. What's a
Yeah.
criminal alien?
It's an illegal alien.
Well,
It says here, drug arrests, they commit 17%, assault 7%, rape 2%, murder 1%.
no, wait a second.
According to the report
What's
to
a-
congressional requesters.
All right, so it can't be 23,000 in a year because there are.
It may be 23,000 during the period studied.
What's the period?
I don't know the
So
period.
you're just going off a crazy footnote out of
Well, it's
context.
not that crazy, really. It's 23,000 dead by illegal aliens.
Yeah.
I don't care if it happened in a year or in 10
Yeah, but
years.
you're saying that illegal aliens commit crimes at a higher rate, but that has come to people who aren't illegal
Well,
aliens.
it says here that illegal aliens commit 2% of all rapes, 1% of all murders, according to this report to the
Yeah, but
Congress.
illegal aliens are 3.5% of the population.
Okay.
So that means that proportionately they're committing fewer crimes than
Well,
the
even-
native population.
You know, there are other reports that would say that they commit more, but...
yeah, but
you know,
you said, off camera, you said,
I believe they commit more, but...
you
but-
believe, but when you looked it up during the
I
break, you
can-
said,
I can-
there are studies that support you, and there are studies that support
Yeah,
me,
but-
and we're gonna have to say that. So frickin' say that now
Well,
that we're
and
on
I'm-
camera.
Yeah, but now that we're on camera, I'm going to
You're not
say...
gonna say that.
No,
You're gonna
what- no, Rick, listen to me. I'll say what I'm going to say. There are some reports that say that illegals commit more crime. There are some that say they commit less. According to this report, they commit 1% of all the murders. According to this report, they've killed...
All right, hold up the book.
According to this report, they've killed
You like this
23,000
book,
Americans.
plug the book, hold it up and show where that, show
Well,
the book,
no,
show
no,
the book.
no, because you're going to divert.
No, I'm just
No,
going to
no,
just
no,
hold
no.
it
I
up.
want this to sink in, Rick. You're going to say some shitty thing about Ann Coulter. I'm talking about a congressional report. Okay? 23,000 dead because of you. You're supporting the murder of 23,000 dead people. Those people would be alive except for you. That's what you want.
Really? So it would have been possible
To save those 23,000 people. Yes, they would be alive today if it
to
wasn't for
shut
your...
down the border entirely over the past 30 years?
It would have been.
What,
Yeah.
How?
Well,
Haven't we been trying to deal with the border for...
No, we haven't, because your side has prevented a wall being built. Your side has deliberately coaxed them in.
We don't have a wall, and immigration, illegal immigration is down 75%
Yeah,
to the lowest level since
I-
1971.
Yeah. He's trying to confuse you with these stupid numbers that impress you. I'm interested in 23,000 corpses, dead people, because of you. I don't care what the percentages are. I don't care what the statistics are. I don't care if it's down, up. I don't care if it's more than the people born here, less than the people born here. I care about the 23,000 men, women, and children that you have gotten killed. That's what I care about.
So it's a bloodbath,
Yes, it is. And it's because of you.
even though you don't have any idea of what period of time.
I don't care. I don't care, Rick. It's 23,000 dead because of your policies. You need to vote for Trump
So-
if you don't want another 23,000
What
dead.
you're saying is that we would have saved 23,000 people.
Yes. We had closed the border.
If we prevented 70 million people
No,
from
no,
coming
70
into...
million people, legal immigrants. This report refers to criminal immigrants. That means illegal aliens. Also, the 2% of rapes. Those weren't fun. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Americans being murdered, raped, and robbed from people that we don't need. Our working class Americans, our low-skilled Americans, do not need
So
the
we
competition.
need to make
We
this-
do not need the competition.
So we need to make
from
this the number
millions
one
of
issue.
illegals.
We're going to make the whole thing, the whole presidency and everything hinges on illegal immigration. That it's more important than infrastructure. We had 3 infrastructure weeks. Nothing happened. We still have no infrastructure.
Yeah, I don't care about fucking infrastructure.
The
Fuck the infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure. But
No one's dying because of infrastructure.
actually, and according to the article I read,
Yeah, a bridge fell on your head. I don't give a shit.
14,000 people.
No one's getting murdered because of infrastructure.
Google infrastructure deaths.
Okay.
So
Rick,
14,000 a year.
Rick,
Drug overdoses,
Rick,
65,000 a
Yeah,
year.
so what? Nobody
Gun
cares.
deaths,
It doesn't matter. It
35,000
doesn't
a
matter.
year.
That's Americans dealing with other Americans. All of it is in the course of running a society, and you know what? Let's take care of it. My point is
But he
that-
doesn't take care of it.
No,
He
no,
runs
he's
on
doing-
this one fucking issue,
No, he runs on many issues.
and he gets
You know,
nothing done on anything.
He just wiped out ISIS. You ever hear from them anymore?
Actually, not lately.
No, because they're all dead.
Okay.
Thousands, we stacked them up like cordwood. It was one of the most brilliant and total crushing victories the United States has ever had. And you don't hear one fucking word about it. Instead, you know every pubic hair in Stormy Daniels' crotch. You're brainwashed,
I
Rick.
doubt she has pubic.
You're brainwashed.
I don't know for sure, but I doubt she has pubic.
Let's change the subject.
No.
What else do you want to talk about? Camille, do you have any
No,
ideas?
wait a second, because are we done with talking about crime rates? Because freaking, oh no, anecdotally, people who come to America, they come. You guys like to accuse people to of coming to America for economic opportunity. That's what they're coming for, and. Among some people, and Jeff Sessions says, no, people cannot get asylum now for domestic abuse or fleeing gangs. So let's say those are reasons that people come to America for economic opportunity, to flee danger in their countries, and that's why they make the extremely dangerous trip to America and try to enter or try to ask for asylum. So it makes sense that most of these people are not Tony Montana from Scarface. They're people who want to live quiet lives, safe lives, And
I think what they're saying is that they're trying to educate them that they can do that, but if they enter from a port of legal, from a port of...
yeah, what they've been doing under the zero tolerance policy is they've been making it impossible or very difficult for people to enter through a port and ask for asylum. People show up at that port up to 5 times and are told to go away.
I don't think people know, the people that are coming in.
No, some people do, and they show up again and again. Some of those people have been interviewed and are not being allowed to enter through that port and ask for asylum. So then they try to go under the bridge, not at a port of entry, and then they get arrested.
Do people talk about the journey that these kids have to go? Sometimes a lot of them come unaccompanied by their parents.
Yeah, of the 12,000 in custody, 10,000 are unaccompanied kids who made the journey without a family, who went as just kids.
So they were separated from their parents.
Well, I mean, they're not 9 months old, and they're not 2 years old, and they're not 6 years old.
So is it humane to encourage that kind of brutality of the journey? Imagine traveling to 3 countries. I mean, do you think these policies encourage something, that brutality that they have to endure?
Of course it does, Rick. Come on.
I'm not, say the question
It was
again.
because of Obama that they made the journey. He was the one encouraging kids to come over. There was
Except
a
he
caravan
deported,
of
I know
kids.
you're going to say that the statistics are deceptive, but he deported more people than anybody else. You're going to say no because of catch and release. But,
Yes,
I mean,
that's
but, you
what
know,
I'm
we
gonna
are,
say.
the deal is that we do not have any more of an immigration crisis than we've ever had. Trump likes to say it's a crisis because that's what he wins on. Now, we
It
are...
couldn't be that he gives a shit about the employment of unskilled Americans.
We have a lower percentage of non-native born Americans than 12 of the 30 countries in Europe.
What the fuck does that matter? I'm talking about employment of low-skilled Americans. I work and live in an area where there are thousands of low-skilled Americans, and they are competing for jobs with low-skilled illegal aliens.
I thought black unemployment was at the lowest level in history.
And it is directly affected
Also,
by
Latino employment.
and it is affected by illegal immigration. When illegal immigration goes up, black unemployment goes up with it.
Oh, so when illegal immigration peaked, when the number of illegal immigrants was at its peak 11 years ago in 2007 at 12.2 million, then that's when you would have a lot of black unemployment. Now it's down to well, according to the most recent statistics from 2016, it was at 10.9 million. So it's declined.
Okay. I don't believe that number.
No, you think
I think there are a lot of people that think it could be as high as 30 million.
Who are these lot of people?
I can look that, well, Bear Stearns did a report.
No, but who are the people that
Bear
you listen
Stearns
to?
gave the report. I actually named the person that wrote, the organization
All right,
that wrote
break
the
'em.
report.
Let's look at Bear fucking Stearns.
Really?
All right, 58.2 and a half. So you're reading from Ann Coulter's book Adios America.
Very bad person, by the way.
Not bad, but probably needs a lot of hugs.
Certainly.
Needs
Okay.
so many hugs.
Finish your point.
So I just read a PolitiFact report on Ann Coulter's statements that she takes from this book, and some of which it rates as pants on fire. And including that, like that one Bear Stearns report doesn't go off of any census figures. It just looks at the amount of money sent back to Mexico. But the Center for Immigration Studies, a conservative think tank, agrees with the other studies that puts it at 11 million, not 30 million. And even the Bear Stearns report puts it at 20 million, says she's even exaggerating that.
No.
Look at that article, unless it's a
There's
typo.
the real number is 30 million illegals. There's good reason to believe the census numbers are wrong. In 2005, 2 Bear Stearns analysts, Robert Justich and Betty Eng, warned clients that there was significant evidence that the census undercounted the illegal immigrant population by at least half. They estimated the number at closer to 20 million. That's in 2005, 13 years ago.
Except the numbers have been going down,
No,
according to
no,
everybody
no,
else.
No. Justice and Ng discounted the census data because it relied on illegal aliens answering surveys. As Justice told the Wall Street Journal, the assumption that illegal people will fill out a census form is the most ridiculous concept I've ever heard of. People have left their families, paid huge sums of money to smugglers, trekked thousands of miles, and broken American law to enter the country, don't have much incentive to fill out questionnaires from the U.S. government.
All right,
Wait,
okay,
all
right.
I'm just going to go on. Citing the work of anthropologist, okay, this is another anthropologist named Maxine Margolis, who says that illegals do not fill out surveys, and that's what the census figures were based on. Dispensing with the census figures, the Bear Stearns and analysts looked
this
at
isn't the fucking Ann
remittances
Coulter
from
order.
the United States to Mexico. These are electric money transfers recorded by the nation's central bank, not surveys of people that don't answer surveys. The report found that while the number of Mexicans living in the U.S. was supposed to have grown by only 56%, remittances from the U.S. grew by 200%.
Oh, maybe they're doing well and sending more money back. The Center for Immigration Studies.
Even as the weekly median wage increased by only 10%.
So,
The Bear Stearns
all right,
report
fucking enough.
also
We're not
compared-
here to have you read out of
the
a
re-
fucking
the Bear
book.
Stearns
So two
report
people at Bear
also
Stearns.
compared the growth in housing permits and school enrollment with official populations. According to the census, the combined population growth indicated that there was a massive amount of illegal aliens, and Rick doesn't want me to keep reading.
No, because it's
but-
boring and
but
you're
it
just
may
reading
be-
a page out of
no,
a book.
But the point is that I've had to do this before. I did this a year ago.
Yeah, but
Because-
it's two people
because-
versus hundreds of statisticians.
Yeah,
Two
but-
people who
but-
don't specialize in this based on one anthropological study versus hundreds of people working
but
in
the
demographics.
The 11 million is based on a census that was given.
The Center
And-
for
and
Immigration
what-
Studies, a conservative
they're
think
basi-
tank.
they're- no, I don't care what they say. You got
Hold up the book. Hold up the book. Here you go. This is your book.
Okay.
This is your source of information.
No, my source of information is the Bear Stearns analysis.
One analysis.
Yeah, but what
Out
she's-
of-
Rick,
compared to-
Rick, you're supposed to be smarter than me, so let's use your logic, okay? What she's saying is the figure for 11 million comes when a census is taken. The census is where you get a questionnaire in the mail, or someone comes to your door with a clipboard and says, "Are you an American citizen?"
No, they don't say that because until this coming 2020 census, the question about citizenship was not included.
Okay. Then you're even more wrong.
Why?
Okay? Because what you're saying is the census that is coming up with the 11 million figure is not reliable. You just said it yourself.
No, the 2020 census, if Trump succeeds and Sessions succeed in including the question about citizenship, which has never been included before or hasn't been included in many decades.
She's saying what the 11 million figure came from a questionnaire that was sent. It was a census.
Not just that, but a bunch of other stuff.
No,
it wasn't
no,
entirely the
it was a
census.
questionnaire.
No,
It was a,
read the fucking
now I have to
study.
read it again. You just told me not to read it.
Not that. No,
I know I have to read it, I guess.
it's not. No, it's not. It's a number of studies, year after year, month by month.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's based on a census. Okay. the
No, it's
assumption-
not. You're wrong because they
It's
have a new
it's a
number
census
every year since 2010, and every year before that, there's a new number for the
Yeah,
number
I
of
understand, I
undocumented.
understand, I
So
understand.
it's not just
It's a
based on.
It's a census. It's based on people answering honestly. If they don't answer honestly, or they don't respond
It's
to the
not a
census,
census. The census is once every 10 years. The undocumented immigrant numbers come out every year. It's
Okay.
not a census
All right.
every
No,
year. It's
okay.
not a questionnaire
Okay.
every year. It's economic analysis.
Okay.
It's all
No,
sorts of
no,
other
no,
stuff.
no. But the
And so
census
you're
that
looking
came
at
up
this
with the-
outlier estimate from two dipshits at Bear Stearns.
Rick,
And Coulter.
Rick, the census that came up with the 11 million is what your figures are based on. And that
Then
was
why do we
based-
get a
it
new
was
number
based-
every year?
They try to estimate, but it is a questionnaire that has to be answered. If they choose
It's
to
not
lie,
just that.
yes, it is. That's what it says. Look, the
right, break.
Urban Institute population
We're
survey.
breaking because we'll look up how they come up with that number.
The-
It's not just a fucking questionnaire.
Are we breaking?
Yeah,
Oh.
broken.
Rolling.
All right, 58.2 3/4. So I read a couple articles on how undocumented immigrants are estimated, and obviously after decades of doing this, they bump up the numbers based on research into what percent of illegals aren't going to respond to surveys like this. They get numbers. The Pew and the other estimators get hard data on legal immigrants from the U.S. government. And then they extrapolate on a bunch of, well, no, there's a yearly list of the number of people who've been admitted legally into the U.S. And then they use all these other statistical and sociological techniques, including the rate at which undocumented people do and do not let their presence be known to surveyors, to come up with a fairly tight estimate of the number of people, illegals in the country. For instance, one recent year, I think it was 2012, the number was 11.1 million illegals, plus or minus 1.1 million, not plus or minus 20 million. The 30 million is some crazy outlier. And yes, some people believe the number is, especially conservative groups believe it's significantly higher, but a lot of conservative groups approve of the Pew methodology and agree that the number is in the range of 11 million, and that it's only outliers who believe it's more than 20 million. But yeah, read some more fucking Ann Coulter. Instead of people who've been doing this work for decades now. The guy who's at the head of this, he says in 79, when this started, that's 29 years ago, they didn't know as much as they know now. And so their estimates had a larger margin of error. But now they've been doing it for 29 years. And I believe, like a math guy, that statisticians generally get better at estimating stuff over time. And the 30 million, based on some Bear Stearns bullshit, is way, way, way beyond any reasonable estimate.
Man,
Yeah.
the reason all the estimates from Pew, DHS, CIS, the Urban Institute, and the current population survey are nearly identical, 11 million, is that they all use the same census data. To count illegals, analysts subtract the number of legal immigrants from the number of foreign-born residents. But if the census figures are wrong, then obviously so are the estimates. Now, here's why they might be wrong. Because the legal immigrants don't necessarily answer the survey, and the foreign-born residents don't necessarily answer the survey.
Except they're not getting
Don't
the number.
interrupt me.
They're
I
not
didn't
getting,
interrupt
all right,
you.
one thing
I
though,
didn't interrupt
they're
you.
not getting the number of legals.
I did not interrupt you.
They're not getting the number of legals.
The census,
from
the census,
people themselves.
The census, okay. The census tried to account for the reluctance of illegal aliens to answer government surveys by adding 10% to their population estimate. Guess where they got 10%? From another survey of illegals. In 2001, the University of California asked Mexican-born residents of Los Angeles if they had taken the recent census. 10% said no, but almost 40% refused to take the survey. Citing the work of anthropologist Maxine Margolis,
There she is again.
Justich and Eng, the Bear Stearns analysts, argued that the non-response rate of illegal alien immigrants might be quite a bit higher than 10%. In 1990, Margolis found that the Brazilian consulate counted 100,000 Brazilians living in New York City, while the Brazilian Foreign Office put the number at 230,000. That same year, the 1990 census reported that only 9,200 Brazilians lived in New York City. Now, the reason that we're saying it could be higher than 20 million is that there were 20 million, according to Bear Stearns, in 2005. Now, assuming it goes up every year because more illegals come to the country, it could be as high as 30 million. But even if it isn't, even if it's just 20 million, that's too many. All right, Rick, you've done your bit. I've done my bit.
No.
Can we move on? Or are we going to
No,
keep
because-
breaking to look things up? Because that's kind of not our show. We've both done this.
Yeah, but you've been reading out of fucking Ann
And
Coulter's
so have you. You've
No.
been reading off of your thing, and it's not helping you.
Hold on. We can break if you want.
Well, he did. You want to talk about Peter Strzok?
Sure. I want to talk about Peter Strzok because this week he was frog marched out of the FBI office and fired. And,
From the FBI?
yep. So what that means is that the head investigator for the Russia collusion investigation at the very beginning was actually fired for bias against Trump. I wish I had Rick standing here so that I could stare at his bewildered and befuddled confusion when I say that. So let's get this clear.
Well, hold on.
McCabe was fired. Lisa Page was fired. Strzok was fired. All because of lies and Strzok and
I'm
Page
looking at
for
the news
bias
here.
against.
I don't see any news stories about him being fired.
Well, he was escorted out of the FBI building. He may be technically on the payroll,
So
but he was escorted by federal marshals
Lost
out of the
security
building.
clearance.
What?
He lost
he
security
lost his
clearance.
security. Oh, so he didn't
Yeah.
really get fired.
Well, if you lose your security clearance,
But
and
he
you're-
hasn't been fired yet. So
Yeah,
you're
but
saying he's fired,
Rick-
but he
Rick-
hasn't been fired yet.
Rick, if you're in charge of counterintelligence and you lose your security clearance,
I thought he
then
got,
you can't do your job. He'd been moved from counterintelligence to the hiring. What's that thing?
Human resources.
Human resources. Yeah. But now he's lost his security clearance so that he can't go into the computers.
so
Now, I just want to ask you a question.
hold on. So let's see. So he hasn't been fired, but let's see. I mean, he might get fired on Monday or Tuesday or something, but he hasn't been fired.
He just lost his security
Security
clearance.
clearance.
Yeah, and he was escorted out of the building. And he was the man that was in charge under Mueller of the Russia collusion investigation. And it now turns out, according to the IG report, that he had actually made the statement that we would stop Trump.
Yeah, with Page, who he was banging, and
Yeah, I don't care if he was banging
how
her.
good was he at?
I don't care if he was banging her. I don't care if he was going down on her. I don't care
Well, I'm
if
sure
he
he
was.
did.
I don't care what his sexual behavior was. He was the man, the focal point of the beginning of the Russia collusion investigation.
You have
And he's now been fired for bias.
not fired.
His security clearance has been taken away. He was escorted out of the building for bias against Trump. Yet you still believe that Trump colluded with
Should
Russia.
you be allowed to work for the FBI? You have strong political opinions. Should you be allowed to work for the FBI?
I should not be in charge of investigating whether Obama or whether anybody colluded with the Russians after a text is revealed saying that I will stop Trump, that I have an insurance policy in case he wins where I'll stop him.
He didn't say anything
Yes,
about
he
it.
did.
What did he say?
He said that there are 5 intelligence FBI agents that we're talking about. Okay, 2 of them are referred to as Agent Number 1, and there's Agent Number 2.
all right.
There's Strzok and there's Page.
So somebody else,
So
somebody other than
it
Strzok.
might have been Strzok, or it might have been Agent Number 1, who might be Strzok, by the way, said that 1, they need to have an insurance policy if Trump wins. 2, we will stop Trump. And 3, Obama wants to know about all of our activities. These are all texts. Now, the man that believed those things, that said some or all of them, was put in charge of the Russia collusion investigation. He was removed after 4 months because he was biased. But what I'm saying is the very inception of the Russia
Fruit of the
collusion,
poison tree. Fruit of the fucking poison tree.
it began after the very week that he sent texts saying that he was going to stop Trump. So does that make you wonder maybe Trump didn't collude with Russia? Maybe it was partly the FBI and Strzok in particular trying to stop Trump like he said he would?
I love to say wait and see.
So you're not the slightest bit impressed that a man was actually got his security clearance revoked for bias, and that he was removed from the investigation that he started.
It's kind of a big deal.
Okay, so maybe Trump, does that make you think maybe Trump didn't collude with Russia?
Well, I've always said, you always say that I say 100% that Trump colluded with Russia, and I've never said that. I think that the probability that Trump colluded with Russia, at least in my mind, has stayed the same roughly, since the Mueller investigation started, and probably before that.
Well, since you have no evidence that Trump colluded with Russia,
Well, that doesn't. Well,
and since
There
you,
is-
and
there-
since you now, oh no, you all right? Go ahead, talk. To give me the evidence. You were going to say something, Rick?
we've been over this a gazillion times, but there's different. The definition of collusion is a
Yeah.
little bit nebulous, and and I've always said that I think that the odds that Trump was financially and perhaps psychologically entangled with Russians those odds are higher than.
But you have no evidence.
Well, no, there is evidence of Trump dealing with Deutsche Bank, which is. But
you have no evidence that he colluded with Russia. Because if
You-
there was evidence, Rick, if what he did with Deutsche Bank was illegal and could prove Mueller's point, then he would already have been taken to court by now. It's been
Why?
2 years.
Well, the investigation. It hasn't been 2 years.
Yeah, because the investigation
Mueller's
started.
investigation-
The investigation of Trump began in the spring of 2016.
Yeah, okay.
Wouldn't
but,
they have found those things about the Deutsche Bank?
there have been big articles on that stuff, but somebody who's meticulous like Mueller.
Yeah.
And when you compare the amount of time this investigation's gone on with other investigations.
I know, but wouldn't they have already brought him to court if he did this thing with Deutsche Bank?
No, when you look at the history of other big investigations, it takes time.
It's a long time.
It takes a long
Okay,
time.
all right. So, but right now you have no evidence.
Except I mean,
You have an imaginary thing that
no,
may have happened.
I mean,
You're hoping something has happened.
there's more evidence of financial entanglement than there is for direct, like smoking gun,
Well,
red-handed collusion.
Okay, so, but my point is, you have no evidence. You have nothing you could take to
You
court.
like to say that. No, but I mean, if they had to make a case now, I'm pretty sure they could make a strong case.
That what?
That Trump was financially entangled with Russian, I mean, he definitely was entangled with Russian
Well,
oligarchs.
why don't they bring this to court then, Rick? I mean, there's no.
Well, they're building a case, I
Okay,
assume.
okay. And the fact that Strzok said that he was going to stop Trump, or it might have been agent number one that said this, and that they had him.
Here, I'm going to do whataboutism. I'm going to do what about the Hillary-loathing FBI agents out of the New York office who leaked information to Giuliani and who leaked information to Congress that made Comey feel he had to make announcements about the investigation against Hillary, but didn't have to announce that Trump was being investigated. What about those guys?
What happened, the reason that happened is because those guys in New York had found the Wiener laptop with the emails involving Huma Abedin, and they had found this, and Mueller sat on it for over a month. And
He didn't
do
sit
anything.
on it. No, he said investigate it. They slow-walked the investigation. They leaked the information to Rudy Giuliani.
Because he wasn't doing anything about it.
No, they refused to give him the results of the investigation because once they started investigating, it took a week to find out that the emails were nothing new. But they sat on it for a month to force Comey's hand, to make him, to kind of compel him, because he didn't want to have it leaked before he could make an announcement, to make this announcement on
Okay.
October 28th that threw the election to Trump. So
Okay,
you like to
Rick,
mention
Rick,
Strzok.
No, I'm not. I get to respond to what you just said.
Okay.
Okay, here's the problem with your theory. What the FBI, what the people in New York found was that there was one more unsecured source for Hillary's emails, which we now know were hacked by an enemy foreign power.
You don't know that.
That was
You
in the
have no
IG report.
evidence.
IG report.
It said likely. Said likely, right? Is that what it said? Or I'm not sure it even said likely.
No, it said probably. It's according to the FBI.
Yeah. So you state it as if it's an absolute.
Well, probably is the best we're going to get because we don't have the head of the KGB here to admit it.
Okay.
So all they say is they were probably hacked, and we now know that there was another unsecured device floating around with all those national secrets on it, and it was up to Comey to do something about it.
Yeah, and he assigns agents to
And
they
just-
slow walk it. They
but
take a month
doesn't-
and they
it
don't
does-
do
it doesn't
anything after
matter.
a month.
During that month, it was up to him to reopen the investigation of Hillary because
What was the New York office doing in that month besides leaking to Giuliani and to Republicans in Congress?
well, what they were telling people, if they were telling anybody anything, they should not be allowed to leak. That's against the law.
Yeah, but they did.
Okay, but the point is that it's Hillary was still. All you're doing is proving my point that Hillary had unsecured devices that were hacked by enemy foreign powers. So how does that help your argument, Rick?
Well, you're talking about guys on one side
Yeah.
struck. You're saying they were going to F up Trump.
Yeah, that's what they said according to the IG
And then
report.
I'm saying, I'm doing some whataboutism and saying, yeah, what about the New York FBI guys who were much more successful in effing over Hillary?
Well, they weren't effing over anybody. They
slow walked the investigation and they leaked information.
Well, what if they had done it a month earlier? It was up to Comey to listen. It had nothing. You're the head of the FBI.
If they'd done it a month earlier.
No. Comey. Wait a minute. This is all Comey's responsibility.
So, all right,
Rick. he found another device that revealed another security breach from Hillary. It doesn't matter whether it's a month, a week, a day. It was up to him to open the investigation again. And really, he had evidence. There was nothing to investigate.
Except
he should have brought charges against her.
No.
I mean, that's the worst whataboutism I've ever heard, Rick.
No,
you were hoping to win the argument by saying, what about? And the only thing you've done is proven that Hillary did another way of breaching national security.
They looked at the thing and they found nothing further to investigate. But they took a month to do it, and they waited long enough.
I don't care.
So you only care about the facts that support you.
But it doesn't matter. Rick, it doesn't matter if they took a year. It doesn't matter if they took a century.
Because all this happens 5 weeks or 6 weeks before the election. They drag their feet knowing that it's going to compel Comey to have to do something about it. They don't investigate. All they do is leak. Comey makes his announcement.
Yeah.
Then they investigate.
Okay.
And they find that there's nothing
they find
that there's nothing warranting further charges or anything. They say it's nothing. They close the investigation.
Then they were helping Hillary because she's the one that left the security breach. She created a security breach, and you're telling me that they were helping Hillary.
Found there wasn't a security breach.
Who investigated?
The FBI. They took another
under Comey.
Yes.
So you're saying Comey?
All right. If you want to break again, and we'll look it up.
Comey decided.
All right. Let's fucking break.
Rick, I don't have all night for these breaks. This is getting absurd.
What time is it?
It's 1:45, and you're acting like a lunatic.
It's not 1:45.
Rick, you don't need.
It's not 1:45.
Yes, it is.
I thought we were supposed to.
Do we have to look that up too?
I thought you said we were going to.
I can prove that it's 1:45. I have a watch. I have a timepiece, and it's accurate. There's a timepiece on the computer that you're trying to check.
All right, it is a fucking 1:45. Let's wrap. We'll do this.
Subscribe to this. Yeah. Rick is going to prove that the FBI found that Hillary Clinton had several unsecured devices that revealed national secrets to foreign hostile governments, and that proves his argument. I don't know what the argument is.
No, the argument is that the FBI investigated.
Yes.
This other laptop.
And why did they do that, Rick?
Because they thought there were new emails on there
because they thought there were any emails, Rick. Any emails.
Well, so let me read about it.
So there was this.
You want to keep going, or you want to leave
there was
this
this
for next
computer
week?
Floating around with the keys to all of our national
so
security.
I don't know the whole deal, but do you want to?
Which anybody? Rick, you see that computer in front of you? You keep checking. If that computer had national secrets on it that were probably hacked by an enemy foreign government, I would be in prison right now.
All right,
like
so
Hillary.
I'm going to look up why they decided that second. Now we can break now and keep going.
You look it up, Rick.
Okay, we're going to break and I'm going to look it up.
Great.
Okay, so I read up on the investigation into the Wiener laptop, and that investigation pertained to whether there were new emails on that laptop, whether they were marked top secret at the time, and they found no new emails. They found a couple that were marked top secret, but it's unclear, according to what I read, whether they were top secret at the time or whether they were marked that later. And they also found that most of these emails hadn't been emailed, they'd just been backed up onto the laptop, which at least wasn't considered an offense. So they investigated and they didn't find any new emails, and they didn't find a lot of emailing of this stuff.
Okay. I just want you to know that if you work for the United States government and you have a laptop that has any top secret emails on it and it's outside of a government building, the building that it was supposed to be in, or if the email was not sent by the government server, then you go to prison because it's a breach of security.
Show me
And-
some people who went to prison for it.
Yeah, there was a fellow that went to prison for a year recently for taking pictures on his cell phone of the interior of the submarine, an old submarine that he worked on, not our latest ones. And that's illegal. He spent a year in prison. He's still in prison right now. One of the reasons that General Petraeus was fired after winning the Iraq War
He discussed shit with his lover.
was that he brought secret documents back to the apartment outside of the government building. They were not supposed to leave the building. So a four-star general that won a war, General Petraeus, was fired for this kind of breach of security. Now,
30 seconds.
so all this proves is that Hillary
go to jail?
should have been prosecuted. Well, he was ruined. So all this proves is that Hillary should have been prosecuted by the FBI.
Well, they investigated twice, and they found out that she didn't do anything prosecutable.
Well, it is prosecutable.
I mean, they
to-
could have tried, but Comey said they couldn't make a case that it was.
So your whataboutism is that the FBI was trying to hurt Trump, and then Comey protected Hillary by not prosecuting her for this.
No,
and you're
no,
supposed
no,
to-
you're saying
you're
that.
try-
You're saying
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And
No, I'm
it's-
saying that the New York office of the FBI effed over Hillary by slow walking the investigation, which, when it was eventually done between October 28th and November 6th, proved that there was nothing
It didn't prove
illegal.
anything. She deleted 30,000 emails that were subpoenaed. That's against the law. So Comey chose not to prosecute her, but that's against the law. If the government,
So the guy that caused her to lose
if
the election-
the FBI